Hi everyone, the next defence up is contextual truth. Contextual truth is interesting because it means that something which is untrue and defamatory can be subject to a defence where the rest of a statement is substantially true. So how does this work? Basically, if I wrote an article about someone saying that they were a rapist and that part was true, but I also said that person stole the watches of their victims and that was a lie, then technically the part about being a thief is defamatory. It is intended, it has the ability to reduce the reputation of a defendant, it identifies a defendant, and I published it to a third party. However, is this something still that someone could sue for and win? The short answer is, in that situation, I would use a defence of contextual truth. And the way that this works is, if you have a look at section 26 of the Defamation Act Queensland, it gives a defence. And that says it's a defence to a publication of defamatory matter, that is my article, if the defendant, in this case me, proves that the matter carried in addition to the defamatory implication of which the plaintiff complains, that is the implication that someone is a thief in my scenario, one or more other implications called contextual implications that are substantially true. And that is, in my example, that the person is a rapist. And the second part of the section requires that the defamatory informations, that is someone being a thief, do not further harm the reputation of the plaintiff because of the substantial truth of the contextual imputation. So my argument, if I was using the defence, would be that calling someone a thief is unlikely to damage their reputation more or take their reputation lower than if I call them a rapist. And if they are truly a rapist, then their reputation should have already been at that lower level. So here, let's assume that normal people have a reputation at approximately this level. Rapist puts their reputation hopefully nice and low. And then being called a thief would also put their reputation lower than that of an average person, but above that of a rapist. Then my technically defamatory imputation has a defence. It hasn't reduced their reputation below its proper level, that of a rapist. So therefore this defence works to say that the defendant does not have to compensate or otherwise give a remedy to a plaintiff where their reputation should be lower than where the defamatory imputation would have put it. The classic example of this is the case of Irving and Penguin Books Limited. This is a UK case, but based on an extremely similar defence in the UK. Irving is well known, he's controversial, he is an active, prolific Holocaust denier writer. The Penguin Books had written a book which included a range of allegations about Irving. The trial judge said that there were a number of statements made by the defendant, Penguin Books, against the plaintiff, and they were substantially true. The substantially true statements were: Irving persistently and deliberately denied the Holocaust, that is the Nazi Holocaust, the killing of millions of people during the 1940s by the Nazi regime in Germany. Irving denied that that happened and denied that millions of Jewish people were killed, etc. Another statement that was substantially true, which had been published by Penguin Books, was that Irving was still an active Holocaust denier. Another true statement, he portrayed Hitler in an unwarrantedly favourable light, and that Irving was an anti-Semitic and a racist. So those things were all true, and they were true based on, in fact, Irving's own writings. However, there were two other imputations that Irving was suing on, and Irving was saying these were false and defamatory. And one was that he had attended a particular conference and that terrorists were represented at that conference. And then the second allegedly defamatory statement was that he had a portrait of Hitler above his desk. So could Irving take those allegedly untrue statements here at the bottom and recover a remedy against Penguin Books? What did the court say? They said first, those true imputations, him being a Holocaust denier, an anti-Semitic racist, favourably writing about Hitler, etc., that these imputations are so grave that it could not harm his reputation to falsely say he had attended a conference with terrorists and that he had a Hitler portrait above his desk. The other stuff is so bad, and rightly so, if I may editorialise, that merely saying Hitler's a great guy is apparently worse than having an image of Hitler above your desk. Going to a conference with terrorists, also was found not to reduce Irving's reputation below the low level he had already achieved by being an active, prolific Holocaust denier who was favourable about Hitler. So in those circumstances, the court said that the defence of contextual truth would apply. Penguin Books therefore had a successful defence against Irving's action in defamation, and therefore did not have to produce remedies for Irving. So if we go back to our local section, section 26, here's how that would work. We know it's a defence to the publication of a defamatory matter, in that situation books and articles, if the defendant, Penguin Books, could have proved that the matter carried in addition to the defamatory imputations of which the plaintiff complained. Those defamatory imputations were that Irving attended a conference where terrorists were represented and that Irving had a portrait of Hitler above his desk. Those were the two things, the defamatory imputations of which he complained. Then you had to have one or more other imputations called contextual imputations that were substantially true. In the Irving and Penguin Books case, the substantially true contextual imputations were that Irving persistently and deliberately denied the Holocaust, he was still an active Holocaust denier, he portrayed Hitler in an unwarrantably favourable light, and that he was an anti-Semitic and racist. So part of using this defence is you've got to clearly identify what is the plaintiff suing about, what are those imputations, what are the separate substantially true imputations in the same publication. And you can see that two steps are happening there in the example. Then you have to go through to a third step and look at, do the defamatory imputations, the ones Irving identified, he attended a conference with terrorists and that he had a portrait of Hitler above his desk, do they further harm the reputation of the plaintiff because of, or do they not further harm the plaintiff's reputation because of the substantial truth of the contextual implications? So was it worse? Did it reduce Irving's reputation lower to say he went to a conference with terrorists and had a portrait of Hitler than to say he was an active Holocaust denier, an anti-Semitic racist who portrayed Hitler in unwarrantably favourable ways? The court said no, it didn't take his reputation lower. His reputation was placed at a particular level. These additional reputations did not take his reputation below that level. Therefore, contextual truth applied. And that's how it will work. So think about contextual truth. If you've got a mixture of true and untrue statements, and some of them are arguably worse than others. So that's something to look at as a defence.